Grand Rising. Welcome to Spiritually Uncuffed at the United Life Center for Spiritual Living. And we are a small but mighty group here gathered here today. So I didn't get a drum myself. We're gonna grab a drum and sing together that we're gathered here. Risa Suave will lead us in song.
Right. We'll do it 4 times through, just for good measure.
4 times for good measure.
Gathered here in the mystery of this hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near, gathered here in the mystery of this hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near, gathered here in the mystery of this hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near, gathered here in the mystery of this hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near.
That's such a great opening song. I'm really grateful that you taught us this. And before our service began, Mary Lee gave Risa a shout out for providing our music for the first 3 weeks of January. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn these songs. Like 3 weeks in, I know how Gathered Here goes. And so I'm grateful for your presence here, and I trust that the opportunity presents itself if it feels good and feels right for everyone involved, that I know we would love to have you back. So
Absolutely.
let's see what happens.
Absolutely.
Let's see what happens. I would love it. So instead of in the spirit of this week's theme of It Flows, I've really let Spirit lead the order of service today, and we're doing things just a little bit differently. Usually we do announcements at the beginning, and most people are not here, right, when we start. Like, it's 11:03, and so for those people who are still getting out of bed and shaking the cold off of their bodies right now, and maybe rolling in 15, 20 minutes in, these announcements, like everybody here kind of either probably already knows them, and the people who come in later are the ones that don't. So we're going to do announcements later in our Spiritually Uncuffed service. So for now, I'm going to invite us to speak our vision and mission statement together. We say that we are a loving, inclusive community, joyfully expressing spirit. We honor, celebrate, and support each individual's awakening to their spiritual magnificence. We empower each other to create happy, healthy, abundant lives. All right.
So it is.
So we are going to move into the meditation and prayer portion of our service. We have Reverend Dr. Sue Ellen joining us today, and we're going to sing a song, and then you're going to do your thing, and then we're going to sing another song, since I'm switching it up on everybody. Does that feel good to you?
I don't know, depends on the song.
Well, let's see what happens. Let's see if it feels
I'm
good
gonna go
to
ahead.
Reverend Dr. Sue Ellen. Let's see. Do you want to drum before we
have any
the
words?
next song?
No, I
Okay.
want her to drum when I pray,
Okay.
and I want you to do the heartbeat drum.
Okay.
All right. Lisa's going to do the heartbeat drum for us. Well, you know what that is, because
I mean, it's just a-
yeah, you knew what was up.
Yeah, okay.
Love.
Makes sense.
All right.
Are we singing first or praying?
We're singing first, and then we're praying.
Do I need to know the words?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. thank
Do
you.
a
Go ahead, Dawn.
No, just
Just magically it's gonna happen.
Let spirit
I'm up
flow.
here.
Is this it?
Yes.
I love my body.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, and it's just this 4 times?
And
and
then
then it
there's
goes-
4 slides, I believe.
Well,
Maybe 5 actually.
Donnell, I don't mind. I'll go over there and move the slides.
Okay.
I'll move the thing
Where?
while you stay on the.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah.
I am
There we
with.
Look at our little small production team.
Look at it. So what do we do?
This is kind of sideways.
All right, we honor ourselves as a part of God's creation.
Yes, we do.
I love my body, it's a holy temple. I am connected to the earth. I love my body, it's a holy temple. I am connected to the earth. I love my body, it's a holy temple. I am connected to the earth. I love my body, it's a holy temple. I am connected to the earth. I love my emotion, it's a divine ocean. I am connected to the water. I love my emotion, it's a divine ocean. I am connected to the water. I love my emotion, it's a divine ocean. I am connected to the water. I love my emotion, it's a divine ocean. I am connected to the water. I love my mind, it's a magic breeze. I am connected to the air. I love my mind, it's a magic breeze. I am connected to the air. I love my mind, it's a magic breeze. I am connected to the air. I love my mind, it's a magic breeze. I am connected to the air. I love my spirit, it's a sacred flame. I am connected to the fire. I love my spirit, it's a sacred flame. I am connected to the fire. I love my spirit, it's a sacred flame. I am connected to the fire. I love my spirit, it's a sacred flame. I am connected to the fire. I love my journey, it's a beauty way. I am connected to the medicine. I love my journey, it's a beauty way. I am connected to the medicine. I love my journey, it's a beauty way. I am connected to the medicine. I love my journey, it's a beauty way. I am connected to the medicine.
Awesome.
Let's
I love
go.
it. I love it. So we're talking about being in the flow, which means that we need to open our minds to the greater mind of God and allow that to flow through us. And it's easier for me to remember the points about the talk if there's stories that go with it. So I'm going to start with a story. This particular story comes from Thank and Grow Rich by Pam Grout.
Okay.
And she says, I'll let Roland, an eater and reader of E Squared, tell this story. So Roland says, I was talking to a friend, Gary, on the phone while servicing a magazine called Yacht World and looking at sailboats. He suspected I wasn't completely present and asked what I was doing. And then I admitted that I was looking at yachts and wished that I owned a 38-foot Catalina that could be slipped in the San Francisco area with the freedom to just fly out, cruise, and just hang. Sounds like a pretty good visual.
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Minutes later, I spotted the 38-foot and asked Gary to hold on while I checked it out. It was exactly as I had envisioned. And as I read on, the owner said he would be willing to trade for an inland boat, which is quite unusual, and that he would trade for a 32-foot Catalina, which is exactly what I owned. So I got off the call with Gary and called the Salt Lake City number. No answer. So I left a message. Half an hour later, I noticed the Salt Lake number on my phone and returned the call. I called the Denver prefix. Are you in Denver? Yes. Are you in Salt Lake? I live there, but I'm in Denver today on business.
Crazy.
Go figure that. He asked to see the boat, and I told him that the boat was not in Denver, but currently stored about 50 miles north by the Estes Park exit. He said, I'm north also, and very close to that exit. Now I'm thinking, no way. This is getting a little weird. So I told him who to contact and to check it out, and if interested, call me back. He called back and said he loved it and wanted to trade. At this point, less than an hour had gone by, and I'm thinking, wow, even the universe can't move this fast. Not. At this point, I was scrambling and trying to figure out how I might wiggle out of this. We had not talked numbers yet. So I figured that would be my way out, and I offered a ridiculously low figure. And he said, great, when can we close the deal?
Awesome.
When you're in alignment, it can just unfold just like that. Ernest Holmes says, I can't remember the name of the book. Can't remember off the top of my head. In spiritual mind treatment, we do not argue with the old order of limitation, but seek through a greater realization to create and sustain in our minds a broader concept and a deeper experience. It is this belief and acceptance on our part that sends the creative law in motion. The guy knew what he wanted. Belief must pass through faith into acceptance by acknowledgement. As the seed is not complete within itself until it comes into conjunction with the creative soil, so our word must be buried in the infinite intelligence, nurtured by belief and faith, and watered by acknowledgement, tended with receptivity, and the outcome accepted with enthusiastic expectance. This is the meaning of entering into the closet and praying in secret, making known our request with thanksgiving. Then the principle, which hears in secret, rewards up openly. This reward is the demonstration. Do not argue with anyone over this. The way to use it is to use it, and there is no other way. Daily go into the silence of your own mind, saying, infinite intelligence is at the center of my being. I am directed daily into paths of peace, joy, and prosperity. Everything I do is quickened into right action. And the Spirit of truth goes before me, preparing the way, instantly making perfect and complete the demonstration of its presence in my affairs.
Mm.
So let's take that into prayer. As I take a breath, I breathe in God, knowing there is only God everywhere present in and through and as everything that exists. God is the heartbeat of all creation. I know that that power that is God is within each and every atom of all of its creation. In the trees, in the stars, in the animals, in the plants, in the people, in the rocks, in the water. God is the heartbeat of all creation. That power that is God is flowing through every cell and fiber of my being. And so in this moment, I say, I am daily directed into the paths of peace and joy and prosperity. Always I am directed. I let go of my need to be right and listen. I let go of my ideas of what and listen. Everything I do is quickened into right action. I only do right things. Always I am guided. The Spirit of truth goes before me, preparing the way. Everything falls into place magically, it appears. Just being there. I accept that it is always in divine timing. Sometimes the way is quick, and sometimes the way is longer. I accept it as it is, and give thanks for this being. And so I release this prayer into the law that says yes to my word. And we affirm it together by saying, and
So it is. Hey.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Whatever's next. No special music.
For you to use. Yeah. No.
Okay.
No, we'll be drumming and we want everyone.
Yeah.
Everybody's got
You
one.
should?
Everybody's got one, so just.
I think Veronica should be here today. Yeah, Veronica should be here shortly.
Alright, we'll see when she gets here.
The river is flowing.
River is flowing.
We have a slide about it.
We sure do. Reverend Dr. Sue Ellen, if we could get some lyrics, that'd be amazing.
Huh.
I'm sorry.
Thank
Yeah,
you
sorry.
so much.
I started the lyrics up there and then she
We
was
wanted to
coming
give you some
back.
time to get situated. As you're double duty here.
The river is flowing, flowing and flowing. The river is flowing down to the sea. Mother Earth, carry me, your child I will always be. Mother Earth, carry me down to the sea. The river
song for this week's theme of It Flows. And for me, I love that we've been flowing in. Like I said, this is why announcements are going to be at the end from this point forward, because we all flow in our perfect divine timing. And I think it's valuable to have the information for everybody in the room once we all get here. So in this theme, I've mentioned in the past that each weekly theme that the Global Themes team identifies, and what the Global Theme team does with identifying these themes, that all of the centers in the Centers for Spiritual Living global community have access to. And what I love about the Centers for Spiritual Living is that there is no one specific way of doing things. There are some centers that don't use this material at all, but the Science of Mind magazine also fully aligns with the material. The information that comes out from home office aligns with the material, and centers have a choice of whether it's their thing or whether it's their not. And this community has decided to utilize the global themes. Before I even arrived here, it was just fun that I just happened to be on the team when I moved here. And so some of my content is in the years that have come up. This 2025 year is my last year on the team. I wrote the content I shared writing the content for June, and I wrote October of 2025. So this month in particular, Reverend Daryl, my homie from Chicago, and Reverend Sonia from Jamaica are who put this material together. And with today being the day before honoring Martin Luther King's legacy, I really chose to lean into what Dr. King had to say. And the way that my relationship with, some of you have maybe heard this before, the way that I prepare for a Sunday is I allow Spirit to flow. And on Tuesday, I don't even remember, I do remember what sparked it. My flow was disrupted on Tuesday. I had a plan in my calendar what I was going to do on Tuesday, and the first thing in the morning of the thing that I was going to do was not going to be able to take place in that moment. I didn't know when it would be, but it wasn't going to be the moment that I planned for. And I said, okay, great. Let me open up the material and prep for Sunday, since I got this time I didn't plan for. And lo and behold, the thing was, it flows. So I was like, great, this is the perfect time to be reminded of this and to consciously live this week from a place of flow. And the person that rescheduled on me with no clear notice as to how long it would be, I let them know what the theme was, and they were like, oh yes, this is perfect. So all week, I've been living in the flow. The people around me have been living in the flow, and I was like, this theme is fully working for me. So on Tuesday, the first thing that I did was start doing a deep dive into Dr. King's speeches. Whenever I see us recognizing, honoring Dr. King's legacy, the same things are said over and over again. And I know his body of work is a whole lot bigger than the things that we see in January. And so I just made my own decision of, let me just flow. I went to the library, I downloaded a bunch of books, and one of them, I don't even know what the book was, but it was a collection of Dr. King's speeches. And it started with 1956 and went on. I've read the first speech over the course of the week. And the first speech from 1956 is called Our Struggle. And it is a speech I've never heard quoted anywhere.
Yeah.
It took me some time to read it and process it and feel my own feelings around it and identify what I want to say around it. And also on this same day, as I was just allowing the flow, I was inspired to pick a book off my shelf of a daily reader that is Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker's daily reader, and pulled a quote from that. So today is really going to be a focus on the kinds of things that Dr. King talked about that still in 2025 are not commonly explored and not commonly discussed. So I'm going to open with, I'm going to read a lot of the beginning of what he said. I kind of took pieces from the the intro and the conclusion, the middle of it has a lot to do with the logistics of the Montgomery bus boycott, so that wasn't necessarily relevant to this particular conversation. But I felt like, I thought about like taking pieces, but Dr. King didn't speak in sound bites. We didn't live in this world where there was this expectation of watching 5 seconds of video and everything is done. So I chose to really provide the context and then highlight certain parts of the quotes for the screen as I go through. So I'm going to start with the opening lines of this speech. He starts, first line is, "The segregation of Negroes, with its inevitable discrimination, has thrived on elements of inferiority present in the masses of both white and Negro people. Through forced separation from our African culture, through slavery, poverty, and deprivation, many black men lost self-respect." So this concept of thinking of this speech having been given in 1956, for Dr. King to note that the culture of treating black people as second-class citizens came with a impact of black men, because black men was, we did this whole men situation back in the 50s, is this concept of the black people losing self-respect as a result of growing up living in a world where basically they are provided with respect. And he goes on to say, in their relations with Negroes, white people discovered that they had rejected the very center of their own ethical professions. They could not face the triumph of their lesser instincts and simultaneously have peace within. And so, to gain it, they rationalized, insisting that the unfortunate Negro, being less than human, deserved and even enjoyed second-class status.
Wow.
So, as I said when I first started speaking about this, that we don't talk about the fact that Dr. King pointed out the impact of black folks not having respect for themselves based on living in a world where they are second-class citizens. And also opened this speech with the fact that the institutions around whiteness of this concept of ethical profession. So, somebody whose job is to provide mental health support, for instance. If somebody is a therapist, and they grew up in a world where the rationalization of black folks being second-class citizens had to be reconciled, that there was this struggle between the ethics of the profession itself and living in a world where this is just happening. And for me, I've talked a lot about how 2020 was this big moment of shift for me when I recognized how much I had internalized having passed down this idea of being a second-class citizen. Mm-hmm. I don't feel born in 1981 as if I grew up in a world where black folks were treated as second-class citizens consciously, but I do feel like the institutions and the just the impact of what it meant for my parents to grow up in this world. This speech was expressed. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke this in 1956. My mother was born in 1953. So she was 3 years old when Martin Luther King pointed out that this is what was happening at the time. The way my family even got to Chicago was, my family's from New Orleans originally. My mother's side of the family is from New Orleans originally. And many of you may be familiar with the Ruby Bridges story of a 5-year-old girl. Once the schools were desegregated, Ruby Bridges went to her first day in kindergarten and was beaten. 5-year-old was beaten. My Aunt Kathy was set to go to kindergarten at that same school that next year.
Wow.
And my grandmother was like, I can't send my children into this environment. And so my grandfather had family in Chicago, and they participated in what is now described as the Great Migration, which was black folks moving from the South to the North. And that experience of, I grew up in Chicago because of what happened to Ruby Bridges, the impact of what has happened to my parents and the world that they grew up in is something that the experience of healing generational trauma, I'm not talking about my ancestors. I'm talking about the fact that my father, my white father, grew up in a world where he had to reconcile his experience of whiteness in a world where he married a woman who was treated as a second-class citizen at the time they got married. My parents' first date was in 1971, which was a year after interracial marriage was legalized.
Wow.
And as we live in a world where marriage equality is consistently being threatened on a consistent basis, having myself being born into an environment of two people who come from this background, having them as parents and witness their own healing, transformation, and reconciliation in the world, what has been incredibly challenging for me is that my father, being somebody who was married to a black woman for 25 years, is very anti the Black Lives Matter movement. And around 2016, we started having conversations about how I felt like the Black Lives Matter movement made me feel like a whole citizen for the first time as an American. And my father still could not wrap his mind around it. And as I think about how tomorrow Trump's inauguration occurs on Martin Luther King Day, for me, that experience is a huge slap in the face.
Yeah.
This man says so many divisive things around people of different races that for this inauguration to happen on the day that we honor someone who led with unity and equality, and having these difficult conversations, saying things to white people like pointing out this, rejecting the very center of their ethical professions for the purpose of maintaining this level of second-class citizenship order, it's really difficult for me to look at. I haven't watched any of the inauguration. I'm not planning to watch anything tomorrow. I'm planning to steep myself in what Dr. King taught, and that is absolutely working for me. So Dr. King continues to say, I'm literally going in order of how this speech went so far. He said, in their relations with Negroes, white people discovered that they had he said, white men soon came to forget that the Southern social culture and all its institutions had been organized to perpetuate this rationalization. This part I don't have on there, Sue Ellen. They observed a caste system and quickly were conditioned to believe that its social results, which they had created, actually reflected the Negro's innate and true nature. So, what Dr. King identifies is that these institutions have been organized to perpetuate this rationalization. And the experience of shifting an institution is not done in a day or in a generation. I have been in the senior minister role for like a month and a half right now. And I've spoken a lot about how our bylaws, our organization is in its 70th year right now. And I've spoken about how our bylaws are this Frankenstein documents of 70 years of revisions that have gotten me to this point of saying, can we do a page 1 bylaws rewrite? And right now, we're in a position where our group is in the state of transition and we have all of the right and perfect people in place where everybody supports the idea of drafting new bylaws based on this time that we live in right now. But that's not true of very many institutions. There isn't this perfect storm of all of the right people and all of the right moments saying, we need to revolutionize our entire industry and do things, start over and start fresh and come together and draft something new. That's not a thing we do. And so, as I was talking about how 2020 was this great reveal for me, and to really identify, let y'all know where it came from with 2020 specifically, George Floyd's death did not impact me any more significantly than all of the other people that were killed that the Black Lives Matter movement was highlighting. There was no significant change. I didn't have this, oh my gosh, this happened in the pandemic. It was happening at all times and all ways. and I was somebody who understood that what the Black Lives Matter movement is doing was highlighting what is already here. We're communicating about what's already here. I identified that in the years and the decades since Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, we're still repeating the same things instead of really talking about what Dr. King actually led with, which is revolutionizing our institutions so that they serve and meet the needs of all. And what has happened is that we've been living in this road of let's focus on the things that make us happy, let's focus on the things that are pleasant instead of actually doing the healing work. So having witnessed, been a part of the Black Lives Matter movement just tangentially, I've given money every once in a while. I literally have a Black Lives Matter t-shirt underneath this right now. But, so that was it. But I didn't buy this t-shirt. Somebody bought it for me. That in June of 2020, when the protests began, it impacted me on a level that I just gotten accustomed to living in a world where racial tensions was in transition. We were having more conversations. And to me, back in 2020, we were moving in the right direction. That there were more people, more institutions really dedicating time and effort and intention to inclusivity and education, and people really wanting to shift and do things differently. So really what shifted for me was in Los Angeles at the time, I was writing a script for a TV writing fellowship that I was applying for. I was a finalist in that. I didn't know I would be that day, but I ended up being a finalist in that fellowship. And it was a Disney TV writing fellowship. And I was polishing the final things of my script, and the person that I was with at the time, my partner chose to go to a rally in protest of what was happening. And I said, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to focus on my script. And she intentionally chose to go to the West Hollywood demonstration because usually the downtown demonstrations were the bigger ones. And she was under the impression, based on our history in the community, that West Hollywood would be the intimate protest that we've always seen and been to before. And it ended up turning into a full-blown riot, and Los Angeles ended up on fire. Wow. So she came home incredibly shaken from having witnessed this protest turn into a riot and watched the neighborhood that we had just left. We'd moved from that neighborhood and bought a house somewhere else. Grateful we had left that neighborhood because it was all on fire. The businesses, the building we were in did survive, but I would not have wanted to have been living there during that pandemic in that moment on the block where that was all occurring. And so having experienced that and writing the script that I was working on felt like it wasn't enough. And I needed to do a page 1 rewrite in a day. And so I was like, I'm going to do it. I had this whole idea. I was going to use the story that she had just told me. I actually ended up writing some version of that, and that's the thing that got me to a finalist of the fellowship. So I did it. But thankfully, ABC was like, we're going to push this deadline out because we understand that LA is going through something. So we're going to give these writers a month to really get situated, and that really helped me finish and polish my draft. But that first day, I didn't know I was going to have 30 days. I thought I had 1. And so I called my boss and told him what I was working on, and I said, I'm going to work on this script. I'm going to take the day off to finish this up. And in the experience of writing and preparing, just dealing with what was going on, my phone was blowing up with calls from white people all over the country. Now, there's never been a time in my life, there's never been a day in my life where a whole lot of white people I know just feel the need to call me. I've gotten married multiple times. I've had a lot of big things that I've said on social media. This is the thing I'm doing, and my phone has not blown up with a bunch of people of all races. That just wasn't happening. But this one day that I'm trying to write my script, all kinds of white people who've ever met me were in kindergarten with me. All kinds of white people just started blowing up my phone while I'm trying to focus on this. And they're all telling me about their feelings about George Floyd. And I'm like, why do you feel the need to call? I haven't talked to you in 10 years. And you want to call me of all people? And I'm realizing, I had all of this, realizations of all the people around me where I'm the only black person they know,
Yeah.
which is why I was the one. And at that point in my life, I had been serving as a solo senior minister for Spirit Uncensored, the organization that I had created. And Spirit Uncensored started as a monthly event, a live monthly event. We transitioned to virtual things. I was doing daily prayer, like really felt a invitation to really give, because I had the time, I had the resources and the opportunity to give, and felt a responsibility to my community to really address and heal what was going on. And I fell all the way apart. I call that moment, and I called it that at the time, a mental health breakthrough, where what I'd recognized so much internalized racism that was living in me all at once. And my body was like freaking all of the way out. I was doing all kinds of things I don't ever do. That partner who was just in a riot the week before was like, what is going on? So obviously that marriage didn't make it through that extreme situation that we were going through together. And I just, I had this feeling of wanting to heal. I noticed this internalized racism, and I wanted to heal all of it in 30 seconds, and it could not be healed in 30 seconds. So coming to terms with the fact that it could not be done in a single prayer, and it was all kinds of things, like I went to my bookshelf for inspiration and guidance, and my bookshelf was filled with books by white men. And I was like, I did this to myself. I didn't notice the lack of diversity in my own bookshelf at home until this very moment. And at the time, I was working at Viola Davis's production company, and we were developing a series called Fast Color. The movie Fast Color, highly recommended. It's on Amazon. It's streaming on Amazon. It's about these 3 generations of black women superheroes. And it's a very different kind of superhero. Like, they don't have a cape. They're not flying through the sky. I can't even remember the specifics of it's one of those inspirational, powerful movie unlike you've ever seen. I remember I was eager for Fast Color to come out, and then it never really came out. And I learned from getting involved in the television project that some things had happened in the distribution, so there was a whole lot of marketing about the movie coming, and then it never came, and then kind of slipped and ended up on Amazon streaming, so most people don't know it exists. And I was grateful that it came back on my radar, that I got to watch it, that we were developing this series based on it. And Viola was not usually involved in the day-to-day of what we were doing in the television side, just because Viola has a whole thriving career as an actress and didn't have time to sit in development meetings. But this project in particular was something that was very near and dear to her heart. And that week, we had a meeting where she'd read a draft, and her thoughts about this character, her thoughts about this mixed race character. Viola Davis is not a mixed race person. I am the mixed race TV executive assigned to this project. And Viola is this incredible black actress that came in, had a passion for this story, and Viola saw a level of depth in this mixed race character that I didn't see. And that broke me. I felt like, how can I go to my job every day and advocate for these characters and dig into what it is, that the story that needs to be told from this person's perspective and the impact that this person is making by telling their story? How can I do that when I have all of this internalized racism, a mountain of it, that I've just discovered this week? So like I said, I broke all the way. Because Viola and the company were amazing, they were supportive of me and my mental health breakthrough over the course of that month. They're like, yep, LA's on fire, you do your thing, but this was June 4th, the top of June that this happened. By the end of June, I was like, I really need to take some time off. I can't read any of these scripts. I'm not any help to anybody right now. I need to take some time off. And my original plan was to just take 3 months to just therapy and rest and just take care of myself and come back to work. And the head of TV said to me, if you really want to be a writer, it sounds like now is time for you to take your leap of faith. And for this man to be the least spiritual person in my life, like consciously spiritual person in my life, we're all spiritual, but he was like not somebody who does what we're doing right now. I was like, okay. So like that was my moment. He was who I needed to hear it from for me to take that leap. And over the course of the last 4 years, I've been doing that healing work in a slow, methodical way. And I'm grateful to be back out in the world and conscious of these things. And I definitely feel like that note that Viola gave 4 years ago is the kind of note that I might give today, but I couldn't do it that day. So in this speech, Dr. King also says, in time, many Negroes lost faith in themselves and came to believe that perhaps they really were what they had been told they were, something less than men. So long as they were prepared to accept this role, racial peace could not be maintained.
50.
It was an uneasy peace in which the Negro was forced to accept patiently injustice, insult, injury, and exploitation. So what I was talking about with the world that my parents grew up in, living in this place where Black folks were told to patiently wait, accept the fact that injustice, insult, injury, exploitation are present. In this speech itself, he calls out William Faulkner for the specific things that he did around saying, Negroes, all this is going to cause violence. Stop doing this. Just wait. And he called William Faulkner out for that. I had no idea William Faulkner had ever done that. I don't know him like that. Me and William Faulkner don't roll together, but like, you know, I hear his name associated with like literature. Nobody ever says this thing about Dr. King called this guy out when they educate us about William Faulkner. So I was grateful for the invitation to read this speech and be invited to recognize that Dr. King was really highlighting, spotlighting something that we don't like to talk about when we talk about racial healing. He closes this speech by saying, the extreme tension in race relations in the South today is explained in part by the revolutionary change in the Negro's evaluation of himself and his destiny, and by his determination to struggle for justice. We Negroes have replaced self-pity with self-respect and self-depreciation with dignity. So this was 1956, that for the first time in Dr. King's life, and Dr. King was like 20-something when he gave this speech, that this idea of recognizing the emotional impact of a generation, what happens to a generation of people who are raised to believe that they are second-class citizens, and what lessons and values do they pass down to their children when that's where they operate from. I mentioned my parents and my challenge with my parents right now. My mother was the one who taught me to work twice as hard as my white counterparts. My father didn't vote when I was growing up because white men have always had the right to vote. So my mother said, your responsibility, Black people and women fought way too hard for your right to vote. You vote for every election. He's a white landowner. He had the right to vote all the time, so it doesn't even matter. That was what the politics were like in my house. That my father's white privilege was identified, was spoken of. He didn't really talk about it, not in a shame kind of way. I don't think it is about avoidance of shame. I really, in all of my conversations with race about my father, they've been challenging conversations with race with my father. He really operates from the standpoint of the level of transcendence around racism that he was experiencing in the 50s. So my father was never somebody who treated Black people as second-class citizens. And my father and his brothers and sister, they did. When my parents got married, I mentioned that interracial marriage had just been legalized the year before. My father's family is Jewish, and they sat Shiva for his death. They considered him dead when he married my mother. They didn't speak to him, and nobody told me about this, because who tells a baby, you know, FYI, the white side of your family used to be racist? Like, nobody mentioned this. And so, like, when I was 2 years old, and the fact, I love that I have, like, my 2-year-old self, my 2-year-old brain held on to this memory of my grandmother came into town, met my white grandmother for the first time, and I asked, why haven't I ever met her before? And they said, she lives in California, and California is really far away. Yes, California is really far away. I had a map, I knew my states, I knew my capitals, I was like, yep, I see that tracks. Nobody was like, because your grandmother was racist. I, like, fair, it'd be like, California, it's far. Like, let's say that to the 2-year-old, right?
Man.
And so, I remember I met her, and because she was in town, we went to, I met the other, I knew my Uncle Jeff and my Uncle Gary, and I learned later that my Uncle Jeff and my Uncle Gary, I've actually mentioned, like, how me and my Uncle Gary have had also challenges around race, and a big part of it has to do with this, that my Uncle Jeff and my Uncle Gary rejected my family's resistance to declare my father dead. They would sneak out of the house and were, you know, continued to have a relationship with my father despite the fact that it wasn't okay. So for them, they were really operating from this place of like, we're not racist. Look at all of the things that we were doing to reject what was happening at the time. And in the generation since then, what I've seen, what I've learned is that the concept of what racism is has deepened. That we are now looking at this experience of institutions and internalized racism. It's no longer just treating black people as a second-class citizen. It's recognizing that what it means to grow up in a world where whiteness is considered the norm, where our parents had to participate, or some of us in this room may have been alive and during this time of participating in that ethical struggle between what they know to be right and the world they live in is about. This is a trauma that we are all experiencing collectively, and we're in this new experience of identifying what racism is. And that's what the Black Lives Matter movement was all about. It was saying, look at all of this video evidence that racism is an institutional issue where black bodies are threatened. I'll tell y'all this quick story that like when I was in high school, I lived in a suburb where I was targeted by police, and I was a 16-year-old girl with my driver's license for the first time, and I had 15 tickets my first year for not making complete stops at stop signs and all that jazz. And one day there was a police officer behind me. Because I'd had all these issues with the stop signs, I sat at that stop sign. I sat at that stop sign for like 60 full seconds before I drove away. And this man still had the right to pull me over, the nerve to pull me over and tell me I hadn't made a complete stop. And I was like, I don't even know how to respond to this. You know, who sits at a stop sign for 60 seconds? I don't even know how to respond to this. And I was wearing my Best Buy t-shirt. Like I said, I'm 16 years old. Wearing my Best Buy t-shirt on my way to work, and he's like, which Best Buy do you work in? Will you give me a discount? I'm like, yes, whatever you need. You know, got on the road and lived in fear at work, afraid, because I knew I couldn't give the cops discounts. I'm 16 years old at Best Buy. I didn't have this kind of like, you know, I could barely get my 10% off my own CD. So I'm just like concerned this man was going to try and buy a refrigerator, and like, I didn't know what to do. And so like, you know, like I have all kinds of experiences of like walking down the streets in Chicago in 2000 and being told I cannot walk down this street because somebody who fits my description did something back there. Like, this has been my life. And the Black Lives Matter movement was like, hey, this has happened to all kinds of black people. Let's talk about it. And the fact that my father, my aunts, my uncles have rallied against it has been such a challenging time for me. So, I am grateful that I continue to do this healing work. I am grateful that I have this space to quote other kinds of things that Reverend Dr. King had to say beyond the fact that he had a dream, and know that Dr. King's dream is realized when we are all willing to do that healing work together. So I'm going to close with that quote, that Ernest Holmes, Raymond Charles Barker quote that I told y'all I found on January 14th. They said, they wrote this back in the 20s or something like that. We all wish to be brought out of the darkness and into the light, to be free from bondage of fear, superstition, and want. The mind must be riveted on freedom. That experience in 2020 that spotlighted my own internalized racism led to my own journey of freedom. That's literally, I'm gonna take the shirt off. Take the shirt off and pray. My own journey of freedom began in that moment, and I could not imagine freedom for myself. And that moment helped me recognize that freedom is available to me. And right now, today, that's absolutely where I'm living. This whole concept of it flows, I am living in flow. My mom sent me a bookshelf for my new place. Yesterday, I moved into my new place by myself. So Friday, I had this dedicated day where I packed all my stuff up. Saturday, moved all my things over, cleaned the place, and was at the homeless shelter by 4 p.m. and was ready for y'all this morning. So like, the whole concept of flow, but like my mom was sending me a bookshelf and she's like, when are you free for this bookshelf delivery? And I was like, anytime. Like any day that's not a Sunday, I go work it out. And so this whole this life of recognizing that I don't have to live in bondage based on the lessons that I've been taught, that I don't have to be restricted to the same old Dr. King quotes, that I get to do my own, experience my own freedom, and I'm living a life of flow. So I would love for us to move in flow, in prayer. I invite you to get your drums and join me in prayer and really recognize that.
Give it to Veronica.
Yeah, get Veronica a drum.
Thank you.
What this drum is, I love it that Reverend Dr. Sue Ellen invited Lisa to do this heartbeat during her prayer. Love that, and you have the heartbeat all in the prayer. I love it, love it, love it. I would invite us to really think about this drum as this healing practice that we are all engaging in and sharing together. So let's just get into it. As we are all brought with our hearts beating together in this moment of prayer, honoring Dr. King's legacy, I am grateful to know that freedom is available to all of us, each and every one of us. Freedom is available. It is simply a matter of choice. And I am grateful that each one of us has chosen to listen to our own inner wisdom to show up for this experience in this moment. Some of us literally braving the cold. Some of us cozy in our jammies, watching this at home. Knowing and trusting that each one of us is in the right and perfect place, and we are all expressing our freedom here. I'm grateful for each freedom fighter that has brought us to this place of unity and equality, that this room represents the dream that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of. Each one of us with our own ideas of spirit, our own ideas of freedom, our own ideas of expression, coming together in prayer and spiritual celebration. I am so grateful for this prayer, grateful for this experience, and grateful for the freedom that we all experience because our ancestors fought, because Dr. King fought for our right to be in this room celebrating together. And in gratitude, I invite us all to affirm this truth together by saying, and so it is. All right, so now it's time for giving. We are able to continue to meet, to have space, for me to have the freedom to be able to move through life the way that I do because of your donations. So I invite you to speak this giving affirmation knowing that your investment in this community supports you, supports us, and we're going to sing a little gratitude song after that. So let's speak the giving affirmation together. We say, I live in abundance. I am filled with abundance. I joyfully give from that abundance, and it transforms my life. And so it is. This is our own remix version of Thank You for This Day.
It's very challenging for me to sit and not want to join you in a conversation. You
Man.
know, like I'm just like, oh no, I can't not now. But it's really challenging because that message was so powerful and there was so much value, and so it's really hard not to.
I appreciate you saying that, and for the month of February, I'm not going to do any of these talks. The whole thing is going to be conversational. I'm going to tell y'all more about February when I get to the announcements portion. But for now, let's sing Thank You for This Day.
Sheesh.
Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. I wanna say thank you, oh thank you. I'm so grateful, so grateful, so grateful, so grateful. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. The best day, the best day, the best day ever. The best day, the best day, the best day
All right. I love our remix. I am here for it. So speaking of remixes, we have DJ Megawatt here, who is going to be our DJ next week. This will be our first time I've ever even heard of a DJ in a Sunday morning spiritual service. Brr, brr, brr.
Brr, brr, brr. Let's go.
So I was grateful that Spirit brought the inspiration to even want to have a DJ, and Meech was the first person, DJ Megawatt was the first person I reached out to, and she was like, yes, and I'm gonna show up for church.
Let's
See what y'all
go.
got going on. So I was
Cool.
like, fantastic, I am with it. So DJ Megawatt will be here next week, and we will be in this space, but fun fact.
One more way.
We are moving February 2nd. Next Sunday is our last Sunday in this space. So, the fun part about the fact, there's a million reasons why our move is fun. First, let me tell y'all where we're going. Golden Girls Trivia that some of y'all are taking pictures of. The address of Golden Girls Trivia also happens to be where our office space is, and also happens to be where we are moving on Sundays. So for all things to be under one umbrella, in one place, in one roof, I am absolutely with. 3810 was where I wanted to have Sundays all along, and they said no, and we honored their no, because that's what we do when people say no. And when we rebranded Sundays to Spiritually Uncuffed, Project 3810 was like, yes, we'll take that. And so I was like, all right. And on top of the fact that 3810 offered us to use their space for Sunday mornings, they've also invited Radiant Living to move over there. I don't know what's going to happen. Me and Project 3810 and the Radiant Living Board are going to meet, and we're going to have some conversations. So, like, to me, as we talk about It Flows, I said I had all of the best meetings ever this week, and it absolutely was. I didn't choose 3810. 3810 chose us.
Yeah.
And here we are. So, as I mentioned, Golden Girls Trivia, that's coming up in the brewery, the Broke Brewing Company, which is at Project 3810, Saturday, February 15th. And I've asked for some donations for paint and prizes, and Reverend Sue Ellen said, I've got all these prizes. How many prizes do you need? And I feel like between the prizes I got and the prizes that Reverend Dr. Sue Ellen's got, I think we might be covered on prizes.
Cool.
So that means paint is the only thing. I think we've got a little slide for that. So the reason I put it on the slide is the painting on the right of that screen. That's what our mural is going to look like in our office. And so those are the colors
What kind of paint are we
that we
talking
need.
about?
Not oil. She said anything but oil.
Okay.
House paint is fine. So you see these colors. If you want to donate a gallon of any one of these colors, she said we only need 1 gallon of those.
Okay.
So
I think I might have
you
some.
can make a donation if you'd like and dedicate it to paint, and we'll buy paint with it, or you
Probably
can.
make it buy a quart.
You're right. You
'Cause
are
a
right.
gallon
It is
would
a
be way
quart.
too much.
Yeah.
You are
I think it would
absolutely
be
right. A gallon is way too much. It is a quart. Thank you for being here and for saying that.
Okay.
Or you could probably donate a tube if you want to go little. But the quart probably is.
You are
as big as a
absolutely
tube.
right. That is what she said. Our mural artist said. You see, I don't paint. This is not my area of expertise.
She said, "I'm
In
speaking
any
from
kind of way.
speaking from overflow."
There are more murals to come.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, the 3810 is also going to be where our congregational meeting is held next week. DJ Megawatt will get us into a groove, and then we were going to ask for y'all to take yourselves a little lunch break. Well, I will wrap right at noon so that you got some time to get something to eat and get to 3810. Feel free to bring your lunch. Like, you know, we're not picky. Bring your lunch, get comfortable. But we want to hear your voices and your opinions around what we're doing. I mentioned before we started service that this congregational meeting had to happen in January according to our bylaws. If it was up to me, it would have been when we already moved over there. But the bylaws were like, this is how it is. And so that's what it is. So we are, we'll be meeting there at 1 o'clock next week, and we are electing new council members and having some serious conversations around what our page 1 bylaws rewrite are going to look like. So would love your presence if you're able to join us. And we will be offering a Zoom link. So if you're not able to join in person, you're welcome to join online and give your voice in that way. I think those are all the announcements I have. Am I missing anything, anybody? Those are all I got on the screen.
Right.
Anything I don't have, it would be just something I'm not thinking of. So, looks like we're set. Office is at 3810. We live at 3810. That's supposed to be our new home. And we're gonna close out with our Siblings on a Journey song.
I'll sing this 4 times thing. We are siblings on a journey, singing in the sun, singing through the darkest night. The healing has begun because the healing has begun. We are siblings on a journey, singing now as one, remembering the ancient times, the people and their wisdom, the people and their wisdom. siblings on a journey, singing in the sun, singing through the darkest night. The healing has begun, begun. The healing has begun. We are siblings on a journey, singing now as one, remembering the ancient ones, the people and their wisdom, the people and their wisdom.
And so it is. I want to thank, I'd love us for us to like, just put our hands together to thank Risa for being here for the last week.
Hey. So dope.
Next month we're doing a sound bath. So instead of singing along and having congregational singing, we're gonna do a whole lot of meditation. We're gonna have some conversation, and our new space allows for us to get cozy. So bring mats, bring pillows, bring blankets. I just learned we have a little stash of pillows, which is perfect. So we've got some extra, but that's what we'll be doing next month in our new space. And grateful that Risa joined us here in the limited time that we've been here. All right, y'all. Have the best week ever.
Thank you. You as well.